Hey everyone, welcome back to another hardware news recap for the week. This one is a great episode. We'll be talking about right to repair, some of the stuff going on right now, but also we have a charity drive we're doing for a couple of right to repair advocacy groups, and that's why this is on the table. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll also be going over AMD's Threadripper 5000 series rumors that are out now. Additionally, as of something straight out of Cyberpunk, not the bugs, but the other stuff, the story, there was a 3800 PlayStation 4 crypto mining operation that was broken down in Ukraine, where the people doing the mining were stealing power. It's like straight from the future. Couldn't have predicted this 40 years ago. We'll also be going over rotated socket AMD Ryzen motherboard, the X570S Dark, a little bit more detail there than we had before, Nintendo announcing its new Switch, and plenty more for the last week. Before that, this video is brought to you by Be Quiet and the Silent Base 802 case. The Silent Base 802 got high accolades in our review for its high build quality and its versatility in both silence-focused and airflow-focused builds. The 802 comes with swappable mesh panels or noise-damped panels, so you have options for either approach. The Silent Base 802 case is able to fit larger builds as well without being overbearing, and it stands out for its mechanics quality and assembly quality. Learn more about Be Quiet's new case at the link in the description below. So first up, I'm really excited about this poster. Andrew spent weeks designing this poster in Blender, doing it in really insanely detailed 3D, and we got an awesomely crisp print on it. So we've just announced this and launched it. It's on store.gamersnexus.net, and we're giving 33% of all the profit from the sales of this to 2 different advocacy groups for right to repair. It fits in perfectly with the theme. We have been supporters of right to repair. We do a lot of disassembly and repair on the channel, so go figure. And so we've chosen the EFF, or the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which has been around forever, and Louis Rossmann's new Fight to Repair. And I'll talk more about what those are doing in a moment. So the poster is a GN teardown logo. That's right, you can take our logo apart in 3D, and there's no warranty void sticker involved at all. In the logo, we have some really cool, actually extremely small details. I'm not gonna point it all out. There's a ton of Easter eggs in this design. Andrew has planted so many of them that I don't even know all of them. So he's got a lot of really cool stuff in here, references to when we started, things like that are hidden all over it. Not gonna spoil where they all are or what they all are, but we have a lot of spoilers baked into things like the VRM components for various GPUs or CPUs or other devices, memory modules on the board. There's MOSFETs, inductors, capacitors. You'll find spring tension screws on there, like the ones you find for a video card, for example. And we've got an aluminum backplate we designed at the bottom. There's a shroud at the top with a bunch of small fans built into it. Andrew had a lot of fun designing this. And the heatsink is actually super cool, because if you look closely at it, there's ray traced reflections. So Jensen would be proud of us just this once. We'll show some of the 3D design work Andrew did too. It's insane. He spent literally weeks on this in Blender, and actually even down to the thermal pads that are shown on the PCB. There's this really cool shimmer effect in it, and you'll see it's almost, there's like a squishiness factor where he's used, I don't know the Blender terminology, but there's some effects generator or something where he's somewhat randomized them to appear more realistic. One of the reasons this took so long for us to finish, other than being really high poly 3D and awesome reusable and all kinds of stuff in the future, is just because of the amount of detail in it. So we're proud of it. It's on store.gamersnexus.net. We do have a lot of them there. And if you buy either this poster or our other one, the video card anatomy poster that we have on the store, there's a lot less stock of that one though, so if you want it, grab it. If this goes well, we'll reorder. If you want them on store.gamersnexus.net, we are doing 33% of the profits split between the EFF and Fight to Repair. It's about 16.5 or so each. And the reason we chose those, so the EFF has been around since 1990. It's about 31 years now. It's a nonprofit foundation serving as a consumer advocate of things like right to repair, internet privacy, and consumer rights for electronics and digital products. Their ethos in this way largely aligns with ours. Consumer rights. The vast majority of the EFF's funding goes towards program expenses, like taking legal action to protect digital privacy and ownership over devices that consumers purchase. Fight to Repair is the new nonprofit set up by Louis Rossmann, whom you may know from his Mac Repair YouTube channel and his Mac Repair business. It aims to directly battle laws which are, in our eyes, anti-consumer and contribute to the massive e-waste pile that's brewing around the world. Fight to Repair is a direct boots-on-the-ground approach aiming to either go with a direct ballot initiative or lobbying approach to get lawmakers to listen to someone other than massive corporations that profit off of blocking access to board level components for repair. Not going to get too deep into this topic because EFF and Fight to Repair both do a fantastic job at explaining things, but to throw something out there really quickly, a really common straw man that I've seen around the internet is that, but if there's Right to Repair, then all of our devices will be bigger and they'll have to be larger to support socketable components and things like that, and that's bad. So that's sort of misconstruing what's actually happening here. Right to Repair isn't about easy repair. It's about getting access to components, not being blocked by massive manufacturers over things that should be easily acquired, like simple MOSFETs or other ICs that you can get from any number of factories or suppliers around the world, not being blocked by first-party manufacturers because they would rather sell more devices and throw things that are otherwise perfectly functional into a landfill because a capacitor has died. Of course, if you like either of these causes, you can also always donate directly to them. If you don't need to pick up a new poster, for example, I'm happy if you do that too, because it supports something that we are happy to support. And there will be links in the description below if you'd prefer to learn more about them or donate directly to them. As for the posters, so for the two posters, the 33% split we're doing of profit between the two organizations, that will expire in about 2 weeks from today. And as stated, if there's a lot of demand, people really like it, we may extend it or do another run or something like that. But it's on store.gamersnexus.net if you'd like to pick it up. And if you'd like to give to them directly, we'll link you below. All right, let's talk about the news. So first up is a rumor of AMD Threadripper 5000 series CPUs. We've been able to independently verify some of these rumors, not all of them. The one that's easier to verify is the rumored name of AMD Threadripper 5000 CPUs. The code name is in fact Chagall, as in Mark Chagall, and this is the upcoming Threadripper line that is supposed to be on Zen 3 architecture. We haven't been able to independently verify any of the additional details beyond that. Website MoPC claims that Chagall will expand the GMI2 interface to 18 gigatransfers per second from 16, and will otherwise maintain the same core count and channels. The MoPC report also claims a doubling of L3 cache. This is all still in rumor status, but it is starting to firm up. It looks like a targeted release date will be sometime in the next couple of months. So looking like Q3, that aligns for a lot of silicon product releases over the past years. And we've heard from our contacts that it is supposed to be Zen 3. That's one we haven't been able to firmly confirm, but it would make sense. As for the rest of it, we don't have anything beyond that, and we'll keep you posted as we learn more. Up next, this one's a pretty fun one. It's about 3,800 PlayStation 4s and some GPUs rescued from a mining operation. A viewer alerted us to this story. Ukrainian police recently busted an illegal crypto mining operation located in a warehouse. There weren't any well-researched English language reports we could find on this, so we did a little bit of extra research, at least at the time of writing anyway, and digging around to fully understand the story and get some more detail for you for English language watchers. The warehouse housed 3,800 PlayStation 4 consoles, shown in some of these shots from the Security Service of Ukraine. The consoles are shown stabilized by makeshift supports and sat atop another support to provide slight spacing from the plywood bed of shelves that they're on. The PlayStations actually remained in the chassis, likely not worth the time to extract them despite the improved everything. We'd imagine this is one of the least efficient ways to mine crypto though, and this didn't really make any sense to us financially why someone would do this, so we went to the Ukrainian news sources and government sources to look for some more detail. The mining operation was located in Vinnytsia, and in addition to the PS4s, the crypto mining operation also had 500 GPUs assigned to 50 CPUs. As for the crime, from what we could gather from Google translating the Ukrainian government news source, it appears to be, quote, illegal extraction of large amounts of electricity. That might explain why PS4s became profitable to use for a mining endeavor, because the electricity was stolen. So the cost is pretty low at that point. So looking into this one, the report said that the power is being illegally stolen or traded, and the SSU stated that this farm was, quote, the largest underground crypto farm, not literally underground, but that it has found yet, and it said the mining operation was housed in an abandoned warehouse from the public joint stock company known as, oh boy. Gonna do my best here. If you know the correct pronunciation, post it below so I get it next time. Vinnytsia Oblenergo, which is part of an energy company in Ukraine. The police allege that attackers were illegally siphoning electricity from the JSC grid and employed methods to mask electricity usage. As for damages, police claim it was 5 to 7 million UAH, which is Ukraine's currency, or Ukrainska hryvnia, or about $183,000 to $256,000 USD per month. That's a lot of electricity theft per month. The police report alleged that the electricity theft this high could result in power outages in entire neighborhoods across Vinnytsia. It looks like the charge is Ukrainian Criminal Code 188-1. Gonna need to get Legal Eagle or someone on that once. It's out of my expertise. But this charge, it says, is for theft of water, electricity, or basically public utilities, and for unauthorized use of those utilities. The SSU implies that the JSC Power Company and the officials may have been involved in this, which would also get into the joys of corruption. And the case has been handed off at this point to the Prosecutor General's office in Ukraine. But it's a wild story because you have boats getting busted for smuggling GPUs and things a couple months ago. It really is cyberpunk. It's happened. The game developers were set up for failure. No one could ever live up to what's actually happening in the world at this point. All right, rotated socket AMD Ryzen motherboard. A couple weeks ago, we published a news video talking about EVGA's new X570S board. We talked about a few other things in there, like new Ryzen software as well. But this one was something where we had a bit of additional insight from Kingpin from EVGA and from other EVGA reps, where we were able to get some additional information on how the board's made. Now there's a new photo posted by Kingpin on his Facebook page showing the back of the X570S Dark motherboard with simply the caption, the red pill. The backside of this board shows the obvious, the rotated socket that we previously confirmed. It shows standard AMD mounting hole spacing, but rotated. This moves the VRM as well to be primarily between the I/O and the first PCIe slot, with the area north of the socket saved for RAM slots. You can see two 8-pin EPS 12-volt connectors and the 24-pin all along the right side of the board, probably at 90-degree angles. The board also runs two full-length and fully wired by 16 PCIe Gen 4 slots. This is made evident by the electrical wiring at the bottom of the board, where you can see the pins poking through. And these are at, it looks like, 4-slot spacing, which would support SLI RTX 3090s, which are unfortunately forced to use 4-slot NVLink bridges, annoyingly, thanks to NVIDIA's decisions. That's most of what we know for now. Release is targeted at Q3 for this year still. And as we talked about before, EVGA is planning 2 boards. One of them will be in an FTW series. It might not be named exactly FTW, but that's sort of the pricing structure of it. So we'll keep an eye out for these. Next one, Nintendo, talking about the OLED Switch model. At long last, Nintendo finally announced an updated Switch, though it's not the heavily rumored Switch Pro that we have been covering for a while now. Rather, the updated Switch's main attraction is a 7-inch OLED. Other improvements over the base model include 64 gigabytes of internal storage, a wider kickstand, a dock that has a wired LAN port, and what Nintendo is calling enhanced audio, whatever that means. If you use your Switch docked, there's not as much of a change since the screen is a large part of it. All in all, the modest upgrades also come with a modest price hike of about $50 for MSRP. They're asking for $350 for this one. That is over the Nintendo Switch base model price of $300. The new Switch OLED model, or whatever Nintendo is going to end up calling it, will be available October 8th of 2021. And that's the same day as Nintendo's Metroid release for Metroid Dread, so that's obviously not a coincidence. Of course, the new Switch wasn't exactly well received in certain circles on the internet because Nintendo's involved, so there's always going to be dissent. It's devoid of any potent hardware changes, and that's a major component of what people were expecting. The elusive Switch Pro has been said to feature an updated SoC, 4K resolution support, well, docked anyway, and improved battery life. And if that's the Nintendo Switch announcement you've been waiting for, then this isn't it. That said, this is the type of mid-generation iterative upgrade that tracks for Nintendo. This is the same company that released the 2DS, the 3DS XL, the DSi, the DSi XL. There's like there's a myriad new 3DSs and new whatever's in there as well. So more importantly, Nintendo is likely biding its time at this point. We're wondering if maybe some of that is because of component shortages. If Nintendo knew it would have trouble sourcing supply for higher end parts for a Switch Pro or whatever it would be, then maybe that's why this comes out first, although it may have been part of the plan all along, given Nintendo's normal iterative upstep. Up next, we'll be talking about the NVIDIA ARM acquisition, where NVIDIA is acquiring ARM for $40 billion, has to go through legal and regulatory hurdles around the world first, but If you aren't sold on why NVIDIA owning ARM is a good idea, then allow ARM's current CEO, Simon Segars, to tell you why it's a good idea, other than the percentage of the $40 billion that he would get. There's probably other good ideas too. In a blog post, Segars starts off by addressing AI and echoes much of what NVIDIA has said in recent years, which is that we are entering the age of AI and that AI will be, quote, the most important technology for the next 50 years. Segars notes that under SoftBank ownership, ARM has been able to enter emerging markets such as 5G and cloud computing, but he says that this isn't enough. Segars said, quote, NVIDIA is the perfect complement to ARM. Combining our expertise with NVIDIA's AI leadership will give ARM's UK-based engineers access to technology and resources that ARM alone would not have. NVIDIA's considerable investment in both UK and ARM will expand our roadmap of research and development and allow us to invest and grow our UK-based talent. Our engineers will be able to adapt and enhance NVIDIA's AI technologies, create new UK-origin intellectual property, and grow ARM's influence in the technology sector, end quote. Segars then moves on to addressing the chatter around the possibility of anti-competitive behavior, the possibility of an IPO, and concerns over ARM possibly moving away from the UK. Unsurprisingly, Segars maintains that a combined ARM and NVIDIA is a better path forward for both, as opposed to an IPO. Segars points out that ARM considered an IPO back in 2016 when SoftBank acquired the chip designer. Similar to ARM's situation in 2016, he cites the level of investment required as a primary concern. He also objects to the idea that NVIDIA will lure ARM away from the UK or otherwise siphon UK investments. ARM will remain headquartered in the UK, Segars said, and will be able to increase our investment in UK-based talent. The UK is already recognized as one of the leaders in AI research and academia. Together with NVIDIA, we have the ambition to evolve the UK into the center of the AI world, end quote. On the idea of ARM's neutral licensing approach being potentially threatened by being purchased by one of its own customers that is competing with its other licensees, Segars had a few things to say. One of them was, quote, that this is an economic and commercial necessity for ARM's business and simple common sense. I would find a lot of common sense in that also if I were at the receiving end of some percentage of $40 billion, but maybe that's just most of the people in the world. ARM and NVIDIA will likely continue to extol the benefits of this acquisition at this point. There's a group of companies that have both opposed it and been in support of it, and some of them have different interminglings with NVIDIA, go figure. One of the proposals from an opponent of the NVIDIA ARM acquisition was that the companies who are licensees of ARM form a consortium and each own a stake in the company so that there's some sort of more evenly distributed equity depending on their respective investments rather than a single owner of the company. And assuredly, there's enough technology companies buying from ARM that $40 billion could be scrounged up between them if that's what if they wanted to do a CXL type approach with the consortium. Arctic liquid freezers, getting more updates up next. So Arctic Cooling recently reached out to inform us of the launch of its new Liquid Freezer 2 360 RGB and ARGB lines. That's right, they've added LEDs. It was nice while it lasted. Just kidding. So the Liquid Freezer 2s have done well in our testing. In theory, this should just be the change of the fans for LEDs. Shouldn't really be much change in anything else. The pump block and housing appear to be exactly the same from what we've seen. We don't have one yet. The cold plate looks to be exactly the same, and the VRM fan is still present. So it's RGB LEDs. That's the change. If that's what you've been waiting for from them, they have it now. The pump block still looks the same, so that's been a turn-off for you. That's not fixed. But by adding LEDs, of course, we assume that Corsair is now considering its own $40 billion acquisition of Arctic because they like LEDs. We made a mock-up of a Corsair RGB LED anti-static wrist strap recently, and everybody should see it, so we're going to put it on the screen now. Okay, the coolers are priced at about $150, plus or minus a bit, for the ARGB variant, and it looks like we saw them on Amazon already, so we might try to review them. Really shouldn't be too much difference here, so it might not be worth doing a full review on it, but we'll try it out, and if there's a major difference, we'll run some kind of piece. Up next, the right to repair movement. Speaking of the earlier announcement, could be getting a big shot in the arm here, as the current administration is reportedly set to draft an executive order targeting repair monopolies. The executive order would be the first of its kind for the Right to Repair initiative, in the US anyway, and would direct the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, to draw up new rules and regulations regarding consumer repair laws. According to the reports, the FTC will be responsible for the scope and the shape of such an order, but the order is expected to include language that will address mobile phone manufacturers specifically and defense contractors as key areas to regulate. In the area of defense, of course, the concern from the military is that they have trouble getting parts to repair things that are proprietary, and the contractors that work with them, from what we've seen, have claimed concern over public disclosure of this information. So not going to comment on that personally or as GN, that's the news. As for the mobile phone stuff, so this has been in discussion for a long time now. Various states have already taken some sort of action, or at least have looked at action for right to repair bills, so that's not new. But this is at more of a federal level. The order is also expected to place large emphasis on the agriculture industry, one that has faced extensive restrictions on how farm equipment is repaired, and endless lobbying against right to repair from companies like John Deere. Most recently, the New York Senate voted to pass electronics right to repair legislation, marking the first time any legislative body in America has done so, and marking a significant win for right to repair. Up next, some concerning language in Newegg's new built-to-order service, where if you want to give Newegg money in exchange for a product, you have to give it money. Not like separate money, like additional money for the right to buy the product. I think it's really weird right now. Newegg launched its PC Builder tool in beta last year in what seemed to be its own spin on a PC Part Picker-like tool. Much like PC Part Picker's System Builder, Newegg's PC Builder tool presents mostly compatible parts and SKUs depending on what other components the user has selected. Newegg's built-to-order services will cost a flat $99 and will be handled through Newegg's newly minted ENIAC, itself a direct on-the-nose reference to the first programmable computer that debuted in 1946. The cost seems fair enough, assuming competent assembly, and that's a very large assumption, and there's certainly nothing wrong with these types of services. That said, there's some troubling language in some of Newegg's documentation, namely this part. Quote, products considered in demand or a hot item products with limited supply can only be purchased with PC Builder assembly service, or you cannot go through the checkout process. Hot items will not be the same throughout the day. This depends on the market. End quote. So the Weasley wording here suggests that should certain products become hard to get, GPUs, they'll be walled off behind Newegg's build-to-order service. This means Newegg will prioritize its BTO customers, where it will not only sell the hot item at a likely inflated price tag, but also collect the $99 fee to assemble an entire build with it. Of course, this isn't new. Newegg also did its Newegg Shuffle, where it bundled exploding power supplies with GPUs. We finally finished that piece, by the way. The testing's done. We're working on that one this week. All right, Microsoft working on its own AI-based upscaling technology. Microsoft is looking to develop its own AI upscaling, similar to AMD's recently announced Fidelity FX Super Resolution and NVIDIA's DLSS. The news comes by way of a pair of job postings from Microsoft, where the company made it clear it's looking for software engineers to work with DirectX and DirectML APIs, both of which are designed for Windows and Xbox. One description here stands out a bit. It says, quote, Xbox is leveraging machine learning to make traditional rendering algorithms more efficient and to provide better alternatives. The Xbox graphics team is seeking an engineer who will implement machine learning algorithms in graphics software to delight millions of gamers. Work closely with partners to develop software for future machine learning hardware. Make a big impact in computer graphics and gaming. Now, as a reminder, the AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution technology will be coming to Microsoft Xbox X and S series consoles. So that's already happening, and anything happening here by Microsoft directly is in a very early state. Also in Microsoft news is a new critical flaw dubbed PrintNightmare. This particular bug, as you may have guessed by the name, is the hardest difficulty of malware. Nightmare is normally if you played Doom, you would, anyway. So the name affects the print spooler in Windows, and this bug was discovered by security researcher and outfit, we're gonna go with Sang4 for this one, who inadvertently also published a proof of concept online. While the proof of concept was taken down, it quickly made its way across the internet, in what's known as an OOF. PrintNightmare is a serious remote code execution vulnerability, and Microsoft warns that attackers could leverage the vulnerability to take control of a machine. Microsoft dubbed the exploit as, quote, a remote code execution vulnerability that exists when the Windows print spooler service improperly performs privileged file operations. An attacker who successfully exploits this vulnerability could run arbitrary code with system privileges. An attacker could then install programs, view, change, or delete data, or create new accounts with full user rights. End quote. The flaw is being tracked as CVE 2021-34527 if you want to look it up. The flaw is serious enough that Microsoft has actually moved to even roll out patches for Windows 7. These are not only out-of-band updates for the Windows ecosystem, but also for Windows 7, which was supposed to stop getting updates multiple times now, but they kept extending it because of how many people were using it because everyone hated Windows 8. So at this point, Microsoft has struggled to mitigate the issue, or at least at the time of filming. And according to the Register, security researchers had already confirmed workarounds for some of the patches that had rolled out attempting to address it. And the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has even weighed in on the issue, advising users to, quote, disable the Windows print spooler service in domain controllers and systems that do not print. They said additionally, administrators should employ best practices from Microsoft's how-to guides. That's it for hardware news this week. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe for more. Go to store.gamersnexus.net. If you'd like to pick up one of these awesome posters or our video card anatomy poster, and as stated, we are giving 33% of the profit from these, from both posters, split between the EFF and Fight to Repair. And thank you for watching. We'll see you all next time.